created to have some fun together, sharing and singing. So, join and enjoy.
Our love for opera brings us together. Thanks for being with us in this trip.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us for another program. As I may remind you that last week we finished our first season. Today we're having what we would like to call it a second season, mainly because we are changing now the main subject that we are addressing every week. In this second season, we will be talking and sharing with you, and let me put the screen off because you're already seeing what we are going to be sharing today. We will be sharing with you the most famous arias of the opera repertory. And as you may have realized, based on the title of this program, we are opening the most famous arias with not an aria but duets. Just to demonstrate how much we can adhere
So it is our program, so we can
yeah.
handle it.
Uh,
Wish.
you may have realized if a tenor or a soprano can cut pieces of their arias, why wouldn't we add duets instead of arias, right? And of course, we are opening with the multi-famous, known by almost everybody, sung at some point in individual pieces or duets, or fortunate many singers have sung the complete opera. Of course, we are talking of La Traviata. And before I say anything else, because you have already noticed that I can keep speaking, keep speaking for hours, let me have Katya share with us before we jump into the first number. Share with us what is it that comes to her mind when she thinks of La Traviata. She has already shared with us in the past that she one of the first things she tried to sing when she was very little, a young girl, it was in fact La Traviata. But what else comes to your mind when you think of this hyper famous, most represented opera in the world?
Well, you stole my words, and I hate you because of that. Yeah, it's one of the most represented and performed operas in all the world since 1853, the year it was premiered. And I have to say that for me, it is a very special opera for the reason that you just mentioned. But I think that is uh, full of beautiful music. I have to confess that some operas are like music, boring, interesting. Oh, a lovely aria, a lovely duet, boring music. But I think that Verdi wrote beautiful music for for every single piece of this puzzle named La Traviata.
And before, really this time, before we jump into the first duet that we would like to share with you, there is one thing that I would like to mention every time I recall some of the opera titles, and it is the case of La Traviata. Some of you may be aware that La Traviata in Italian, of course, means something, some sort. In English, I'm not sure of the translation. In Spanish, it is like extraviada, but like extraviada in Spanish doesn't really mean anything. So I was telling you that I would like to remind everybody that now we are recording in the year 2022, and despite being over 150 years after the composition of this opera, people are still afraid of calling La Traviata Violetta Valery, as you may know, the name of the character, are afraid of calling her for what she is. And forgive me if you have chaste ears, but La Traviata, what actually means is that she was a prostitute, a high-end prostitute, if you wish, who would deal with who would be part of the, or have as customers, as clients, la bourgeoisie of those years in Paris. But in fact, that's what she does. And the interesting part here, I will not give full detail of La Traviata, but I think it is important because that's how it actually opens. It does not tell us the story of a woman who falls in love with so many people, of which is inferred in the first act and throughout the whole opera. But the whole opera is about a woman who at the end deserves to find the true love. And that true love is Alfredo. That for some tenors like to sing it, it is not a very complex character for a tenor. I mean, Verdi puts everything into Violetta's role, so she's the one who changes and who suffers throughout the whole opera. But before we jump into that suffering, let's go now, and I am putting on the screen the score sheet of the hyper famous Libiamo Nellieti Calici, which I was telling Katia in Spanish that nobody speaks that. No, nobody, even translated into Spanish, nobody speaks like that.
Yeah. Thanks God.
Yeah, maybe the best way to translate it is let's just get drunk.
I mean, they're having a party, so it's like pretty logical. Let's drink and let's cheers for anything, any reason.
And it is also said that Violetta Valeri's La Traviata's Paris were very famous in the Paris of those days. People would spend the whole night there. So just imagine how interesting those Paris used to be, which you see later on another act. I am not going to tell you anything else. But let's go back to that. So we are in the middle of a party. Of course, Violetta is there. Alfredo is there. So he has the opportunity of approaching to the woman she saw and fully fell in love for her. Operas, the tenor always falls in love for the soprano. Well, nobody's perfect, that's the way it is. But it is very interesting because in this act, La Traviata or Violetta Valery is seeing what she does every day. She's with someone, she's having a party at her home with many guests, happens to run into this very young guy that somehow touches her heart. This duet, Libiamo Lieti Calici. So let's drink from this. This is not a glass of water, a glass of wine. We're not specified what kind of wine. Maybe we don't want to know. But you may be very familiar with the introductory notes, because when people listen to it in the concerts, they immediately go like, ah! Or if it is the opera, as soon as they listen to the first notes of this introduction, which, by the way, we improvised a couple of programs in the past, which was very funny, not very good in artistic result, but we enjoyed it. And in fact, that's what this duet is inviting us to have. Fun, fun, fun. And so, as I will start to play in the background, just the intro, this melody, what are your first thoughts around this Brindisi de la Traviata?
I'm afraid that I can't follow your sound because you are pretty far away from here and it's delayed.
Yeah.
It will happen.
I'm not singing. I'm just putting it in the background as you speak.
Oh, great.
Much better, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So as I was just saying, as you know, this melody makes you also like wanna dance. Da 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 da. So even if you realized, I didn't have the impostation in the voice, and just with a natural spoken voice, you can have the melody. But let's take a look at the lyrics. It says, so I would like to call. I will not give much details of, or I would say technical details on the score, because I know that many people who are watching us are not familiar with reading music. So I will try to keep it as simple as I can. If you have already noticed, there is a small expression here that says con grazia, and then it says leggerissimo, which means that this part has to be sung graciously, not with all the voice, but leggero and with grazia, and that makes complete sense. I mean, you're in the middle of a party, so you will not be singing it as you are deep serious. Even if you are in love with her, you may even take the chance of using your own glass of wine to maybe go and flirt with Violetta, right? That's what you usually see on the stage. So you go like Liviamo, liviamo nell'etica, lici che la bellezza infiora. By the way, those that small passage is usually something the tenor usually messes up with. In the interest of pursuing volume, so the small notes over there, the chacaturas and all those things there are usually omitted, but people really doesn't care. People are just expecting to have fun with that duet. So who cares if the tenor sang all the notes, or if he omitted half of them? Truth is, nobody really cares, right? Then he goes for che infiora e la foggevolo persine mia voluta. I would tell you that even though we could translate the whole content of or the lyrics of the duet, I think it is not necessary, because the duet, from my perspective, is just an excuse to have fun. It's just a way to settle the environment. There is no actual content that really needs to be translated, because it will have meaning later on the opera. So I think that the best thing to do it is just to go for the words, go for the melody, and enjoy it, unless Katia thinks differently. Do you agree with those thoughts of mine?
I agree. I think that the most important part of this piece of music, of this duet, it is the music. I think that the music speaks for itself. So we use the text, and it has a function, of course, but we are just introducing Alfredo, Violetta, the love that Alfredo feels for her, and they're having fun. So I don't think that there is not a bigger complication in this sense.
I like the word. There is not a big complication in here. So he goes like, Liviamo nei dolci fremiti che suscita l'amore. Here I would like to mention something. So even though we said do not pay too much attention to the words, this expression here really just give us a small hint when he says liviane dolci fremiti che suscita l'amore, meaning that he somehow, or that drinking somehow makes you easier to find love. Many people can tell you stories of the night they went out with friends and fell in love with someone, which at a later date you would call them, no, you were just drunk. That was no actual love, you were drunk. So,
But it's not the case in this point, because I have to mention that Alfredo has been taking care for Violetta the last year. She's been sick, and he's been asking how is she going. So it's not that drunk.
and you just spoiled the story, because I was about to say that. And now I will spoil the complete story because it is true. For Violetta, at least at this point, he's just a guy, another guy who falls in love for her. But for Alfredo, it is very different. As Katia just mentioned, he cared for her from the very first time he saw her. So he's been in love, this suffering of love throughout the whole year, and this is the final time he has a chance of meeting her. So at the beginning, at least in this duet, it is not balanced. Alfredo is very, very interested in her, and for Violetta, Alfredo is just somebody else. Things are about to change, but let's not share that still. So, this is expression che suscita l'amore, poiché quell'occhio al cuore onnipotente va. And here is where he ends his first part. Libiamo amore, amor fra i colici più cali baci avrà. And here is where the very, 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 very famous choir starts. Libia, la 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 la. And this is the part where people in the choir usually clap, right? They are usually like ta da 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 da. Of course, much nicer than I just did. But that after the first intervention of the tenor, then comes the choir, people clapping usually, and then comes la soprano, and with an expression on the score sheet that says salsa. You can start sharing us what comes with your part.
Sure, sure. Travoi, saprò vivere il tempo mio giocondo. Tutto è follia, follia nel mondo, cercherò di piacer. Godiamo sempre con il godio dell'amore, e un fior che non ci muore, e più si può goder. Godiam, cembetta, fermi, facendo lusinghier.
Then the chorus again. Godiamo la danza, il cantico, la notte bella il viso. In questo paradiso ne scopra il nuovo Dio. Con
La
grazia.
vita che podio,
Quando non sai ancora
non dite che l'ignora.
il mio destin così. Godiamo la tazza, il cantico, la novea bella il riso.
Riso in
In questo paradiso ne scopro il nuovo Dio. And of course, people are waiting for this final part of the duet for the two voices to go for a high note. And right after that, usually the public goes mad, insanely mad and clapping. We need to confess, or we need to share, that in fact it is not a difficult duet, at least from a technical perspective of difficulty in high notes, elaborations, ornaments, or passages in the voice. Unless you tell me differently, at least for the tenor, it is not a difficult part to sing.
A piece of cake.
One can sing it even if one is sick, because if you don't feel like singing it, you can always have people to join you and clap while you are resting. So most of the times you
Yeah,
can easily get away with it.
yeah. It is a pretty kind duet.
Yeah, you know that if you are adding it to your concert or recital or whatever, for sure people will clap. We know that. And as I
It
was,
is popular, it is melodic, it is famous, so it has everything to win.
yeah, that's one of the numbers, just as O mio babino caro, where you know that you will sing it and you will get away with it.
Yeah, Cuando me envo.
Quando me vo, yeah, people want to listen to Quando me vo as well, or many of the others that we will bring to this cycle. And let me just share a couple of final thoughts on this duet. As you may have realized, the two of them just having fun. No more things to explain, but I was telling you that this is the first act where Violetta is singing all the time. Well, she keeps singing high notes throughout because sopranos can't help it. They need to sing high notes all the time. But this is the only act where she's actually happy. Things will go to hell in the following acts. But yeah, because if you look at the libretto is very cruel. After
Yeah,
this, well, of course, you wrap up with the sempre libera, where you show off that you can have your high note there, and if you're a soprano and you don't sing it, people feel like they shouldn't have paid for the ticket. So even if
that's
it is
right.
not written, people are expecting that note. So
It's already part of it.
yeah, so and that's the last happy moment that the soprano has on stage. We are not giving many more details because this is not a program on La Traviata. I'm just sharing this because you will see how we are jumping from a very happy duet, and as we're landing now in the third act, there is another duet that is not as famous as the Libiam Libiam, but it also has its place there. And if you ask me, in fact, if I had to choose between the two, I would choose Parigi o Cara. What about you?
Oh, I don't know, but if we think only about the emotional sense, the content, and the drama, of course, that Party Giocata has to win, because like we were talking about Libiamo, it is about having fun. If we analyze what Violetta is singing about, I'm gonna share my happy time and my happy life with all of you, and I'm not worried about anything. And I have it all. I have money. I'm beautiful. I'm famous. Well, she's a prostitute, but she's not very worried about.
Yeah, to be sincere, yeah.
Yeah, but in this point, she finally. Oh, I hope I'm not making a spoiler again, but she's finally meeting again with the love of her life, and she's about to something. So it hurts. It hurts to sing it, at least for me.
Yeah, the emotional commitment for Parigi Cara, if you and the reason why we are mentioning when they happen throughout the whole opera is because something that singers have done is that when they choose the numbers for the recitals, it for the audience, if they are not familiar with operas they are part to, they just think that they are like pieces, like at this point I'm happy, at this point I'm sad, at this point I'm brave, at this point I'm afraid. But there's an evolution of the character And this is what we are talking about. We have the evolution of, we have had Violetta, happy, famous, with money, young, beautiful, everything. And now that we are landing on the third act, she's not old, because in fact, I can spoil it now. She's about to die, and she will die very young. But before this duet, she has already confronted that all her beauty is gone. If you're familiar with that aria, it is Ario del Passato, in where she's